The images have become all too familiar. A burst of violence, then fear.
I'm running into harm's way. That's why I have my rifle.
And then chaos.
At least 18 people have been killed.
It's a formula for terror, public attacks we see, and many we don't.
Preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me.
More than 200 attacks and plots in the past 6 years, spread out over 42 states.
The number of plots and attacks are at the highest level we've ever seen.
I don't know whether we've seen the worst of it. We sure have not seen the last of it.
And while many were from far left and jihadist groups, the vast majority were committed by the far right, nearly 60%. A percentage that surged even higher in the last 6 years.
Right-wing extremism has entered a frightening new phase in this country.
The FBI now calling lone wolf attacks from violent extremists the nation's greatest threat. But are they isolated incidents or part of a bigger trend? To find out, we traveled the country, speaking with experts, militia members, former members of extremist groups, and those who still have ties to them. And one thing became clear. The idea that the Capitol attack was not just possible, but predictable.
Did you know anyone who was there at the January 6th riot?
Yes. I was at parties with these people. I interviewed one of these people into his first hate group.
Samantha knows the face of far-right extremism better than most.
So we're in South Carolina. Is this where you were radicalized? Mm-hmm.
She knows because that face was her own.
I did not think I was racist. I thought that I saw a truth that no one else did.
Were you racist?
Absolutely.
Samantha asks that her last name not be used to protect her safety. She was inducted into a white supremacist group called Identity Europa nearly 4 years ago, after her boyfriend had been radicalized online.
He had started saying some just strange things that I now know are all far-right jokes and slogans. But I confronted him and just point blank was like, what is this? What are all of these phrases? And he had said that he was a fascist and he didn't want to be with someone that didn't support that. I was so desperate for his approval that I ended up choosing to try and understand it, and I fell into the far right.
There, she met some of the most prominent faces of the modern far right, including Richard Spencer and the organizers of the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally.
This is the type of awful tool, propagandistic tool.
They would get books written by or about Jewish people and burn them. And the whole concept behind it was to stop anyone else from having to read Jewish propaganda. But yeah, it was a book burning.
Before splitting apart in 2019, Identity Europa was one of the most active groups in the far right. Their goal, to be mainstream, avoiding recognizable racist images and instead using ambiguous talking points about white identity.
So once you're inside and once you enter this movement, what were the views of the people around you? Did they believe that immigration was okay?
No.
Did they believe that black people were as intelligent as white people?
Absolutely not.
Did they believe in the Holocaust?
You're kind of softballed on all of these topics. And by the end, if all of these things work correctly, then absolutely no immigration. Like the race IQ theory is real. Holocaust absolutely never happened. But Hitler was just a compassionate and empathetic person who just wanted to take care of his people.
Wow.
Dylan Roof, the mass murderer, was a saint. Segregation is an absolute ideal.
I think what's so shocking about this movement in today's day and age is here you are, have your wits about you. How do you end up in this space?
I think part of the reason I decided to speak up was because there are so many high-ranking people in this movement. No one wore hoods, they wore slacks. They were EMTs, they were lawyers, they were doctors, they were your neighbors, they were your family members, still believing in all of this stuff. And I think that is what makes all of this so dangerous and so, it's just terrifying. You can't spot the white nationalist anymore.
When Heather Heyer was killed by a white supremacist in Charlottesville, Samantha began to have doubts. 2 months later, her grandmother died, a woman born in Germany and forced to be a member of the Hitler Youth as a child.
How did she feel about you joining the violent alt-right?
She knew exactly what it was as soon as I presented it to her. She called me out and just said, that is Nazism. what you think you're doing is Nazism.
Now, Samantha uses her experience to help others through a project called Future Freedom, an online platform for those on the inside who want to get out.
This is a problem that I think is reaching every living room of every house, every laptop of every computer in the country. And I don't want there to be a world where there are X amount more of me's that went through it and have no idea how they fell for that. No one needs this trauma.
It's a trauma that only appears to be spreading. Extremism experts at the Anti-Defamation League say white supremacist propaganda is now at the highest level ever recorded. And it's reaching people in new ways. One recent study found that between 2005 and 2010, just under 27% of lone wolf extremists were radicalized online in some way. By 2016, that number was more than 73%.
What has changed in the last 20 years is that it has broadened its appeal by, in a sense, reinventing itself around more polite, seemingly innocuous language. What you will see are things like white pride, celebrating European heritage. But if you dig into it, it's the same old racist ideology. It's just been repackaged.
A transformation that sometimes takes a winding road. Chester Doles is running for a county commissioner seat in Lumpkin County, Georgia, about an hour north of Atlanta. He's also fundraising in support of candidates he believes share his values.
I'm running on a MAGA candidate platform. There's a tidal wave of MAGA candidates that are going to rise up in 2022.
What are your top 3 issues?
My top 3 issues would be pro-life, pro-gun, pro-wall.
When he was younger, he was a leader in the Ku Klux Klan and a member of a neo-Nazi group.
Stand back, stand by.
Now, he says that's all in the past.
When did you come out and renounce racism? Because I know you did that in the past.
2019, several times in 2020, but whatever banner I might have been fighting under, the enemy had always been the same, left-wing radicals, socialist.
But the Ku Klux Klan isn't against leftist radicals. They're against black people, Jews. What do you believe now that you didn't believe then?
Like I said, it just depends on who's looking at it. When I've ever read anything like that, it seemed like they were just pro-heritage.
The Ku Klux Klan?
But, well, in some forms. But I'm not here to defend them. It was 28 years ago, and I will not spend one more day I did this last year. No more apologies. You can get over it.
Publicly disavowed by candidates at the federal level, including Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and former Senator Kelly Loeffler. He's since thrown his support behind a new slate of candidates, some of them from diverse backgrounds. But many still question whether Doles has changed at all.
I know that you had come out and denounced racism, but when I was looking at social media, you had put this picture here saying that Jovi Val was coming to speak at one of your rallies here. And then this is him, Jovi Val, with a racist, and I mean, this is a Nazi hand gesture. And then he posted here, "Get in, we're hunting Juden." So he's talking about Jews. And that's him at your platform. Do you think that's someone who's a white supremacist?
You know, I wouldn't call him a white supremacist. I think Jovi's got some issues. I didn't know he was quite that extreme.
But that was posted before you invited him. When you invited him and said you were bringing him here, he had already posted those things.
Yeah, well, Jovi was involved a lot with the MAGA. I wasn't aware of any of his other street activism.
But what about, like, on your social media, these are the people following you with swastikas and white power signs. Why are these people attracted to you and your platform?
I don't know. Maybe they're good people, you know, as far as being good American citizens and stuff, but
Can you be a good person, a good American citizen with a swastika and white power?
I don't look into people's personal, what they're all about.
What about this one? I saw you posted just recently this year. You were posting about Valentine's Day stickers, and you showed 1488.
Oh, God forbid.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
You don't know what 1488 means?
No.
All that time and in the Klan and reading these white supremacists, 1488 means nothing to you?
Couldn't tell you.
Is it a coincidence that it's a white supremacist?
It must be.
He knows exactly what it means.
Jonathan Greenblatt is an extremism expert with the Anti-Defamation League.
The number 14 refers to what they describe as the 14 words, which is kind of a white supremacist maxim. And 88 refers to the letter H, right? It's the eighth letter of the alphabet. And HH means Heil Hitler.
Doles is no longer a member of the Klan, so is it fair to still label him a white supremacist or an extremist?
ADL's been tracking Doles and other white supremacists for years. And this is something that they do, Morgan. So white supremacists often use this ethos of, quote, plausible deniability. With a wink and a nod, we'll signal to white supremacists, but look at, let's say, the mainstream media and say, but I'm not one of them anymore.
Where's hot?
It's a denial and a movement that leads some to take matters into their own hands. This is the NFAC. An all-black militia with a mission to defend the black community by any means necessary.
So this is training for one of the new chapters.
Yes. Appearing by the hundreds at protests from Stone Mountain, Georgia to Louisville, Kentucky, they demand justice for police killings of unarmed black citizens and counter what they believe is the threat of right-wing militias. It's a movement started in 2017 by this man, former musician and Army veteran John Grandmaster J. Johnson.
Is the movement growing?
By leaps and bounds.
We met with him outside of Cincinnati, where he says another new chapter is now in the works.
The NFAC stands for the Not Effing Around Coalition.
What's behind the name?
The NFAC was born out of the last 4 years under the Trump administration. The deterioration of racial relations in this country. It means that you're preparing yourselves to defend yourselves by any means necessary.
Is violence an option to reach your goals?
The United States was built on violence being an option. Violence should be the last option.
Extremism experts say the group is distinct from far-right militias, with a record of coordinating with police and avoiding violence.
When you talk about January 6th, and we saw those rioters storm the Capitol, what do you say to critics who say you're no different from them? They're extremists, you're extremists.
Show me where we have done those things. They've killed people. They've disrespected the government to the point where they have invaded its sacred halls. Show me where we've done those things, because we have done none of them.
We were allowed rare access to a training site of a chapter at a secret location in rural Georgia.
We are now driving to the NFAC training facility.
We spoke to one member who only gave us a code name, Shy, to protect her anonymity.
Why did you decide to join this movement?
It's for the cause. Black people, we need to learn how to defend ourselves. This is definitely one way to do it.
Do you all, have normal jobs? You work in all different sectors? And
Absolutely. We're business owners. We're doctors, lawyers. We're your everyday person, anywhere from Walmart to the corporate sector.
What are you all training for?
We're training for self-defense.
We have all these different groups, those who are far-right extremists, those who are combating the far-right extremists, and then people who are trying to help de-radicalize young people online. How does this country begin to solve this problem?
There is no silver bullet that will solve the problem of extremism. We actually need not just the full force of government, we need a whole of society strategy if we hope to tackle this.
Tackle a problem that may only be getting worse.
And some of us will stand to the end to defending American values and family values. I think the enthusiasm that was so overwhelming on January 6th was because people seen it as our last, this is it. Trump's gone, we're done.
Is that what you think?
Yeah.
What do you think those rioters thought they were doing?
I think they all thought that they were revolutionaries, that they were going to bring justice and the truth out to the country. I know what that feels like. I thought that too.
You thought you were the last stand of
the Western civilization.
A civilization that some are afraid will leave them behind.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.